What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to today's video. Today, I got a great video for you. It is about the difference between a poor mindset and a rich mindset. Often in life, it is not what we know. It's not our education. It's not how we were raised. It is our mindset that determines our success in life. Our mindset determines how far we go. Our mindset determines when we want to quit, when we want to give up. Our mindset determines what we're going to be in life. And so many people have the wrong mindset in this world, okay? And I'm going to show you how you can take some of these excuses that these poor mindset people use and how you can transform that mindset into a rich mindset. You probably hear your parents talk about this. You probably hear some of your friends talk about this. These excuses of why people aren't where they are in life. It's these mindset traps. And you need to acknowledge it and you need to see these traps so you can start to think a little bit differently here, okay? So I'm going to go through these. I have about 10 to 15 excuses. I'm just going to hit you with them, okay? So the first one, let's get into this, right? The first one is, I don't know anybody, right? Have you ever heard someone say, well, I just don't know anybody? The reason the rich people are rich is because they know everybody. They're in the room where it happens. They're in the room where all the deals happen, and I just don't know anybody, so that's why I'm not rich. And that has nothing to do with who you know, okay? It has all to do with who you can get to know, okay? And the rich people say, who can I get to know? Who can I find out there who can introduce me to somebody? I found this statistic, I think one time, they said, in your state in which you're located, you are connected to almost every single person in your state by 3 to 4 connections, right? So you may say, well, there's no way I could connect with that top entrepreneur, that top person, whatever. It doesn't even matter, that successful person, right? But you don't realize that you're 3 connections away from somebody who can introduce you to that person, right? Oftentimes we look so shallow when we're thinking about networking, getting to know people, when really networking is not the person that you met, but that person who's going to introduce you to somebody else. And then that person is going to introduce you to somebody else. And then you look around and you're like, hey, I have this network of other successful people because I put my neck out there and got to know other people that were also doing something as well. So, being around high-performing, high-successful people requires you to get to know one person today. And so many people, they use the excuse, I don't know anybody. And what the rich say is, who can I meet? Who can I meet today to get me to that next level? The next excuse is, I can't afford it. How often have you heard somebody say, I can't afford that. Man, I wish I could afford that. Or, man, I just can't afford that. I don't know how people live like that, right? They're limiting themselves. When you say you can't afford something, you are limiting yourself by saying, hey, I can't do something. When you say you can't do something, that means you're putting a limitation on yourself and you're saying, hey, we're not going to be able to do that. And when you're limiting yourself and you're putting limitations on your thoughts and what's possible and what's actually attainable in life, then you only think in a possible world. But you don't realize that when you lift those limitations and you say, hey, instead of I can't afford it, how can I afford it? When you say, hey, how can I afford that? Yeah, that G-Wagon's $250,000. That's insane. That's an insane price of a car. It is. But how can I afford that? What are steps I could take today for me to afford that? You understand how that is a construction moving forward, that you're saying, hey, now I can get to a point where I can think in my head, how can I make that much money to where a $250,000 car is like nothing, right? You have to change your mindset to, I can never get that, to how can I get to that? Because when you have the how instead of the can't, you're going to find a way to that goal. I always say when you put your goals so much further than what you think is rationally possible, it forces you to think outside of the box in your solution to getting to that goal. It's the same thing when you're saying I can't afford somebody or can't afford something. If you can't afford something, you need to say, how can I afford that thing? Another thing I hear all the time, it takes money to make money. It takes money to make money. That's how he has so much money, because so-and-so gave him money, or he made good money from his first business and he's taken that money, he's invested it, and you're like, yeah, if you have money, you make more money. That's true, right? A 10% return on $1 million is more than a 10% return on $10,000. But I will say it takes courage to make money. It doesn't take money to make money. When you start that business, and you start a business, a lot of businesses that I've reviewed on my channel, very minimal startup costs. It takes courage to start those businesses. It takes courage to start a business, put your neck out there and be vulnerable and learn and get kicked in the face every day. It takes courage to be an entrepreneur where you can make most of your money. It takes courage to do that stuff. It doesn't take money to make money. Unless you're a financial advisor and you just have money sitting around. Yes, I get it, but so many people in our world, some of the most successful, wealthiest people in the world today, did not have money before they raised to the riches that they have, right? Jeff Bezos in a garage creating Amazon. Elon Musk raised in poverty. Bill Gates, right? All these people, they didn't have money, right? They had ideas and they had courage and they said, I'm going to take this step to put my idea out there, and they reaped the benefits. So it doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage to make money. I've also heard poor people say, hey, the government is constantly keeping me down. If it wasn't for the Republicans, if it wasn't for the Democrats, I would be X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you this, if you're using the political parties as a crutch for your success, you have already lost, okay? You know, my dad used to say when we would lose sports games, I played a lot of sports growing up, and we'd lose by a bad call. Like a ref would make a bad call, right? And I would be so frustrated. Like if the ref didn't make that bad call, we would have won. He said, Nate, you got to be better than the refs. And when so-and-so's dad on the team, their son, whatever, he knew his politics, he goes, you got to be better in politics. You got to be better whatever. It doesn't matter what the laws and regulations. It doesn't matter. You have to be better. You have to find a way to win. When you find a way to win, that means saying, hey, they passed a new law. I have to pay 40% more in taxes. Doesn't matter. I'm going to find a way to win. Oh, they passed a new law, maybe limiting my business. Oh, this is going to cut my revenue in half. Doesn't matter. Find a way to win. When you have the mindset of finding a way to win, then you're not using everything else as an excuse and a crutch. And then if you already think that you're beat, then you're going to be beat. But if you say, hey, doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to find a way to win. And yes, the political climate may be better when so-and-so's in office, or it might be better when so-and-so's in office, but it doesn't matter. You got to find a way to win no matter who's in office, because that's what life is. Life is not an easy meadow. It is getting punched in the face, and then you're going to have great times, and you're going to get punched in the face again. So don't let the government keep you down. I didn't come from money. That's another excuse, right? Oh, I didn't come from money. So that's why it's hard for me to make money. I don't understand the truths. I don't understand how rich people use their money. Like, I was never raised around money, so I don't know. And that's such an excuse when you could say, hey, how can I create generational wealth? It's up to you to learn the trade of wealth building, right? It's up to you to learn, hey, how can I invest my money? How can I make sure that I'm in the right career path? How can I make sure that I can start a business so I can really build exponential wealth, right? So instead of using, hey, I didn't come from money, and saying, hey, I'm going to be the first one in my family that creates generational wealth. I'm going to create wealth in my family. Another excuse we hear is, if only my past was different. If only my past, if only that didn't happen to me, I'd be way so much further than I was today. If only I didn't get in that divorce and my wife took everything, whatever. You know, you hear all these excuses. If only my past. What these people do is when their past hits them and they continue to talk about their past past is their crutch, it trips them up of their future. So they can't look forward, and they can't really create the life that they really want because they're worried about their past tripping them up. Okay, they're constantly living back here. The rich mindset is saying, how can I improve my future? How can I get to that next level? Even though, hey, whatever happened, I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to move on and start building my life that I really want. Another thing I hear all the time is, I don't have the best education. I wasn't raised in the right schools. I didn't go to Ivy League. I didn't have the best education. And what really rich people say, and a lot of entrepreneurs say this, I'm an entrepreneur, I always say, what is formal education? A formal education is nothing but easy networking. That's it. Formal education does not teach you anything that much head and shoulders of another university. At the end of the day, it is applied knowledge that makes sense. It's on-the-job knowledge, right? You can read a book about how to build a house, and you can do all that stuff and be so immersed in it until you get on a job site. It's a completely different thing. So actually having real life experience, real life knowledge is way more valuable, 10 times more valuable than anything else. So I would say, instead of, hey, how can I get the formal education the best in the world? How can I get the best in-person experience in the world? How can I get around so many people that I'm learning every single day by doing, not by reading and sitting in a classroom? You don't learn by sitting in a classroom. You learn by being on site. Let's be honest, okay? The next thing here is I need to find a good job. How many people have said, my goal in life, I just want to find a good job. I want to find a good job. I want to find a good job. And then you have this average life and you never get ahead. You never get ahead because it's not about finding a good job. It's about finding a good career or a good business to start. Okay? You need a career, you don't need a job. You need a business, you don't need a job. You need to be the owner, not the employee. You need to have a career where you take your career and you say, hey, I'm going to run my career like a business, because there's two paths that I see. You either have a career and you run it like a business, or you have a business and you run it like a business and you make money. Either way, you can make a lot of money in, but you can't make a lot of money in a job, because a job is just over broke. That's what it stands for. So don't get a job, find a career, or start a business. Another thing that we hear is, I'm waiting for my opportunity. My opportunity's coming. I'm going to, good things are coming. Like, it's going to happen. But that person's not taking action. They're sitting around. They're waiting for the opportunity. What the rich people say is they say, I'm creating my opportunity now. Hey, if opportunity doesn't knock, tear down the door. That's one of my favorite quotes, because it's like, hey, you need to take action. Don't sit on the sidelines and wait for your big thing to happen. No, get in the game every single day and say, hey, I'm going to make this thing happen, whether it is supposed to or not. I'm going to rip the door off the hinge and I'm going to walk through it, okay? You don't become successful by waiting around and gathering dust on your feet. You become successful by getting up and saying, hey, I'm ready, and I don't care if the world isn't ready. I'm going to show it that I'm ready right now, because that's really how it works, okay? Another thing that we hear is poor people seek everybody else's approval. They want to call 20 people, 50 people before starting a business. They want to have everything worked out. They want to have everybody telling them what they really should do. And they want to listen to everybody. And they get into fights when somebody says, hey, maybe you should not do that, right? And they get into fights, but they don't do anything. All they do is seek other people's approval, and they don't ever take action. What rich people do is say, hey, I'm creating my own standards in life. I don't need to live by so-and-so standards. I don't need to live by my family standards. I need to live by my standards. And if I want to start something, I want to start that business, I'm not going to wait around for everybody else's approval. I'm going to start it. Because if I listened to everybody else's approval before I started my business, I wouldn't have started it. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So at some point, you got to say, hey, it's good to seek advice, but at the end of the day, you need to know in your heart when the time is for you to start. Another thing poor people do is they constantly talk about, what if I fail? They never start because they're worried about failure. And what the rich people know is that failure is part of the process. When you fail, you learn. And I don't know how many times in my business where I've had many failures, right? Just many tiny ones where I'm like, could have done that better. Now I know not to do it. I had one today. Had a meeting. I'm like, we didn't run that meeting as efficiently. We need to do better on this. We need to make sure next time we do it that it's way more efficient, because this didn't look professional, right? There's many failures that I learn by doing, and that I'm not scared to lose. I'm not scared to have a little bump in the road, because I know that, hey, things are getting smoother. But they aren't going to get smoother unless I learn from my failure. So make sure that you say, hey, failure is part of the process. I learned. I did not fail. Next thing is, what poor people do is they say, what can I spend my money on? Rich people say, what can I invest? Because investing is that, hey, I'm going to invest my money so someday I don't have to work. So someday my money is working for me. You're planting that harvest for tomorrow, or you're planting that seed for tomorrow's harvest. That's what rich people do. Poor people say, I'm going to take today and not plan for tomorrow. So plan for tomorrow so you have those reapings that you sowed, okay? The last one here, poor people spend their time at the bar, partying, hanging out with friends, and just wasting their time away, right? And it's depicted as fun. It's depicted as fun, but what happens after fun, when you don't prepare and you don't create a life that's meaningful and that's going after success and that leads to money and all this stuff, is that someday you have just sorrow because you haven't created anything. You just partied for 30, 40 years, and at some point you're the 50-year-old at the bar that everyone's like, why is that guy over there drunk by himself? What rich people do is they say, hey, I'm going to spend my time improving myself. I'm not going to spend my time at the bar. I'm not going to spend my time partying. I'm not going to spend my time just hanging out with friends all the time. I'm going to get into books, reading books, improving myself, taking courses, learning how to improve myself and get to that next level, because that's where meaningful life is, improvement. Every time I've improved my life, I've had a better life. So if you can improve your life instead of really destroying your life at the bar, you should really do that. So these are rich, poor versus rich mindsets. You need to acknowledge these things and almost write them down. What are some things that you've seen that poor people have said that are holding them back? You need to write those things because they're going to creep up in your head. If you're raised around or if you're around those people, you need to say, hey, I'm going to shift those mindsets into rich mindsets, and you're going to get to the next level. If you like today's video and you got value out of it, hit like and subscribe. Thanks.